Arne Slot speaking ahead of Liverpool's clash with Man City at the weekend. Kweku, I just feel like Arne, mate, I really like him. I loved his team last year. I love the players they've bought this year.
Yeah.
I know he's got a big job on his hands doing a bit of a transition and things like that. But just get over the low block, mate.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah.
You know, it's your job to try and get your boys to fix that and play amongst that and beat teams in a low block. And you haven't done it recently. Just get over it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It gets you, right? If you don't win football matches, it gets you.
Yeah.
And it's got to him. One thing I will give him credit for is that when he played that heavily rotated side in the Carabao Cup against Palace, he was heavily criticised. And people didn't like it, especially the performance that team put out and the fact that they were beaten so heavily at Anfield. But he did that with the mindset of we've got 3 really big games on the horizon. Aston Villa, Real Madrid in the Champions League, and then Man City.
Yeah.
They've won 2 of those games post that 3-0 loss against Palace in the Carabao Cup. So the gamble seems to have paid off. If they manage to get a win at the Etihad, all of a sudden Liverpool are back. And so he deserves credit for that decision because it was a tough decision, right? He had to chin it in the moment. But I think if you look at it with hindsight, it was probably the right decision. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. And look, Arne Slot is a wonderful manager. It's no mean feat taking a side over from Jurgen Klopp, having very little investment other than Chiesa, who last season, wasn't what they expected him to be. He was injured for half of it. And then winning the title when everybody was talking about Arsenal City. Fair play. You've got to give him his props. I'm a huge fan. And you're right. He got completely bombarded with criticism for putting out teenagers. And if they had have lost against Villa, Madrid and City, then maybe it would have been fair to say, yeah, you can't win the title. I just always felt in these last few weeks, yes, people have been enjoying Liverpool not doing well because we want to see different winners and we don't like fans getting too ahead of themselves, etc. But I just never thought they're out of the title race.
Oh, really?
It just takes a couple of poor results from Arsenal, and they've shown that they're capable of a bit of a wobble in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So look, I'm sure Arsenal, I still think they're probably favourites, but they can get sort of like knocking knees, can't they?
They can.
And I just think, when people start sort of figuring out the set pieces and the long throws, maybe I can see Luke Henry's sort of got a wry smile on his face at the minute. Maybe it's all going to go a bit pear-shaped. And then all of a sudden, Florian Wirtz is the best player in the Premier League in 3 months' time. He's been, he'll get player of the month or whatever. And then it's a completely different world. So I just don't buy this idea that this particular game, even now, is whoever loses is out the title race. Am I being a little bit too sort of free-spirited and free, sort of, anyone can win?
No. You're being totally reasonable.
Sorry, I'm what?
You're being totally reasonable.
Say it again, boy.
Totally reasonable. Because look, let's look at it, right? And I'm being unreasonable. I went on there a couple of weeks ago and said, title race is done. Arsenal are going to win the league. Because that's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel that Arsenal are
still now
the best team in the Premier League. It's a culmination of years of hard work, right? Years of consistency, years of grinding. And it's an adage that you use in American sports. Attack wins you, or offense wins your matches, but defense or defense wins your championships. Yeah. And Arsenal just don't concede goals. If you don't concede goals, you're not going to lose games. And I've seen it on multiple occasions in this league. If you think about the 04-05 Chelsea team that everybody talks about that conceded 15 league goals, or even that Fergie team in the midst of winning the three-peat between 06 and 09, had an incredible defence. If you think about Van der Sar and Vidic and Ferdinand and Evra, if you've got the best defence, not just in the league, but in the world, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody else to win the league. But it's still mathematically possible. And over the last 8 years, these are the only 2 sides to have tasted Premier League glory in Man City and in Liverpool. So these players have been there and done that. These Arsenal players haven't. And so when you talk about knocking knees when it gets down to the stretch, into the run-in, Arsenal have not been there before and not got over the line, whereas Liverpool and Man City, a lot of these players have done it. So let's see. It's too early to call it, but I'm calling it. Arsenal going to win the league in this case, relevant.
Well, one thing I've got to say about Liverpool, in defence of their title defence, is that Dominic Szoboszlai, that yes, Ekitike has been wonderful. Yes, they spent loads of money on Isak, loads of money on Florian Wirtz. But Dominic Szoboszlai has been playing in position, out position. He's got fabulous hair and a cracking jawline. And I just think, what a player. He's just so unbelievable. Good. And I know he's not an unsung hero, but I just think he deserves so much credit. And I think that if they're going to get anywhere closer, being reigning champions, he's going to be the man of the season for him.
100%. And he is an example of testament to time. When he first came into Liverpool, It was an underwhelming first season,
Yeah.
right? Questions being asked, is he really any good? We're seeing a totally different player. Like, he doesn't look like the same Dominic Szoboszlai. I know the haircut's changed and he looks a bit more slick, but in terms of his ability, in terms of his comfortability in this team, he feels like he belongs, and this is why you have to give players time. This is why you can't write off a Florian Wirtz. We saw how good he was at Leverkusen and for Germany. We know that there's talent there. You've got to give these players time. And the thing I love about Szoboszlai as well, he just looks like a Liverpool player circa the mid-noughties. Think about a Patrick Berger or a Luis Garcia or a Morientes, the Alice band and the long
greasy
hair.
dark hair.
Yeah, man. He looks the part, and I think if he hadn't been on form this season or playing the way that he's playing, Liverpool would be out of touch. I think he's turned up in big moments, not just the goal, if you think about the amazing goal he scored against Arsenal, but just his performance and his versatility and his ability to drag his team with him.
Yeah.
And I think it undoubtedly been Liverpool's top performer this season.
As for Manchester City, another cracking result in the Champions League. Phil Foden looking sort of back to his best, which again, I mean, we've talked about England, but it's great for England as well. Feels like they're sort of hitting a similar groove to the champions that we've seen in the past for the first time for me in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I call this season a hindsight season for City. If they don't win the league, you'd be like, yeah, well, understandable, right? Their transition, they don't have Kevin De Bruyne now. They're trying to figure out their identity. They're trying to play a different style of football. But if they do go on to win the league, you'd be like, well, of course they did. They've got Erling Haaland, Rodri's back to fitness. They've got Pep Guardiola, Phil Foden's there still. They've still got quality defenders. So this is a hindsight season for City. At the end of it, it will all make sense. If they win the league, you'll be like, that makes sense. If they don't win the league, you'll be like, that makes sense. But they're finding their groove. And it's, again, as somebody that doesn't like Liverpool and doesn't like Arsenal, I'm praying that City can mount a title charge, a proper one, because they've been there and they've done that, and they've got players who've won the biggest trophies. And if they can find that momentum and start to build up a head of steam, they're going to be hard to stop. And I think we're starting to see semblances of that in their previous performances.
You mentioned the absence of Kevin De Bruyne. You've also we've sadly had the sort of continued absence of Rodri through injury, which is sort of devastating for him, for City, and for the Premier League, because he's such a wonderful player. But in their absences, you know, I know that he's recently back from injury, but Ryan Shirky again just looks to be maybe unlocking Erling Haaland in another way. And then you've got Nico Gonzalez, who I'd read reports coming out of Spain that he was already looking for a move out of Man City about 6 weeks ago, and now he's sort of becoming a really prominent part in what Pep Guardiola's trying to do. And I just sort of wonder that maybe in a similar way that Liverpool, no one was talking about Liverpool last season and went and won the league. People this season were talking about Liverpool, but Arsenal being the main contenders. Maybe, just maybe, you've got a bit of Liverpool about Man City this season with the emergence of a sort of slightly new looking side, playing, I think, slightly more pragmatic way, which is credit to Pep Guardiola. And so I just think, even if they lose to Liverpool, I just don't think you can write a team like Man City off just yet.
No, you can't write them off. They don't look like the free-flowing Man City circa 22, 23 or 23, 24. But
the game's changed, hasn't it? The landscape's changed. And the way that sort of the bottom half clubs all set up is totally different now. And so Pep Guardiola's done the right thing. Maybe done something that Ruben Amorim's not shown recently, is that he's shown that willingness to adapt and change. Yeah,
and we see that in the goalkeeper, right? Like, Donnarumma is a top shot stopper, but in terms of the ball at his feet, he's not one of the best in the world. But I think that Pep Guardiola recognising that the game that he forged, really...
Yeah, he's a pioneer.
Yeah, he is the pioneer of it, has changed. And he needs to move with the times if he wants to still win major trophies. Pep Guardiola's never gone 2 seasons without winning the league title. And it's hard to imagine that happening, whether it's in Spain or in Germany or in England. He's always, if he's had a year off, he's won it the next year. And I think for him, especially with how City played last season, this would be super sweet. To win a league title from where they were, then you can start to talk about Pep Guardiola alongside Alex Ferguson in terms of rebuilding squads, right? Pep's just always had the keys to the Ferrari, and the team's kind of already been there when he's joined, and he's just made them the best team in the world. He's never had to rebuild, and this will feel like a rebuild if they go on to win this league. I think they do have to beat Liverpool at home. I think these are games you do have to win, and it's tough, right? Liverpool off the back of a couple of good results. This has been the biggest game in the league for the last few seasons. Let's see who's really got it. Let's see which manager takes the risk. Let's see if Arne Slot away from home takes the risk. Let's see if Pep Guardiola goes to try and impose himself, or maybe he plays a bit like he did against Arsenal where he let them have the ball. So this is a really intriguing matchup.
You've set it up perfectly, Kweku. I can't wait for that.